Hello, everybody. Welcome to the sixth session of the Community of Practice. I hope everybody's having a good day, and I want to welcome everybody to the start of spring, wherever you are, although I learned yesterday that actually the spring equinox is actually last Sunday, not today. I didn't know that for a lot of complicated reasons, but welcome to spring, and I want to thank all the co-sponsors as we have in the past. We appreciate all of your support. And I just want to reiterate again, our key message, as I do every time, just we really have to remember that community is medicine. That's what we're really trying to focus on, because throughout history, it's been when we've banded together as groups to respond creatively and adaptively to problems that we've been able to solve these complex problems. And by working at the community level, we can do it again now. So again, I just want to reiterate that our mission is to remember that if trauma can be passed down through generations, as it has been, we can also pass down healing and transformational resilience. Just a brief summary of last week. We focused on the second foundational area involved with building population level mental wellness and transformational resilience for the climate ecosystem biodiversity catastrophe, as we defined it. And that is to make a just transition, which means leave no one behind as we do this work. And this is really vital because the impacts of the climate catastrophe and actions to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, restore ecosystems, and adapt to the consequences of the climate catastrophe are both going to generate harm and benefits, and we have a responsibility to ensure that an equitable distribution of both. And to make this just transition, it really requires the active participation of the affected communities in planning and implementing and continually improving strategies that enhance local physical built conditions, housing, transportation, parks, etc., economic conditions, and local ecological conditions, and resilience coordinating networks. And we human service professionals in general need to actively engage in this, because unhealthy, unsafe, and unjust local conditions are powerful drivers of mental health struggles. But at the same time, when residents engage in creating healthier and more just conditions, they find healthy hope, which helps prevent traumas. We're going to hear a lot more about that aspect actually next week from Father Paul Abernathy. So today we're going to focus on the third foundational area that we have our research identified that's needed to build population level mental wellness and resilience, and that is to develop universal literacy about mental wellness and transformational resilience. And we have two really outstanding presenters with us today, Charlotte Eure, who's coordinator of Virginia's Trauma-Informed Community Networks, and Dr. Wanda Boone, who's the CEO of TRI, together with Resilience Youth. Wanda was here and she stepped off. She'll be back in about 20 minutes. And Wanda's also going to join us Thursday for the special session that's just going to focus on working with youth in climate issues. So I hope you can think about joining us then. And also folks from the Mycelium Youth Network in California, which are as a climate and youth focused programs, will also join us on Thursday. So just a background, the three basic focuses of building universal literacy for mental wellness and resilience is to help everyone become trauma and resilience informed. You heard this from Robin Sanger a couple of weeks ago, that when she first started off, she focused on just being trauma informed and then realized, well, that's just the starting point. We need to do much more. We need to build resilience also. And so it involves, in a sort of simple way to think about it, helping everyone develop trauma-informed knowledge and skills, understanding how trauma and toxic stress affect their mind, body, and emotions, but also then what we call presencing or self-regulation skills and purposing or adversity-based growth skills. Helping people understand this information, learn this information, really helps normalize their struggles. People understand, oh, something not wrong with me. I'm experiencing this normally. And it therefore prevents harm. So here's one way to think about it. We all are affected at different points in our lives by traumas or toxic stresses, and we hold it in our bodies in different places. That's what this little picture shows. Some of us gets headaches, some of us shoulders ache, our stomach goes bad. We get heart problems, or it shows up in our feet or our hands, whatever. And what's happening is we're having a natural survival reaction, an instinctual reaction to a sense of a threat. And what it does is it produces the release of cortisol and adrenaline that creates a physical reaction, increased blood pressure, pulse rate, difficult breathing, muscle tension, aches and pains, sleep disorders if it's really bad, but also a mental reaction most often. We start worrying about it and worrying about, oh, is this like something that happened in the past? Or is it something that might happen again in the future? Or we feel guilty that we feel this way, or we did something, or we lose trust in others, or feel shame and humiliation, or our assumptions and beliefs about the world and our role in it are shattered, and we lose meaning in life. These are sort of very natural. All of us go through that at one point in a time. But if we learn how to manage and release these reactions, we can remain healthy and resilient. We sort of go up and down in what we call a resilient growth zone, and you'll learn more about that actually next week. But if we don't release these reactions, what began as helpful coping mechanisms, these are actual natural human coping mechanisms for the sense of threat. Those coping mechanisms can become harmful. And we want to help people understand that what they're experiencing is natural. And those are coping mechanisms, but we also want to help them learn how to discharge them, because if they're not discharged, we can end up with self-numbing versus using alcohol and drugs, whatever, or seeking relief like diversions from overworking or gambling, whatever it is. And we can turn our aggression, our distress on others and become aggressive or violent to others. Or we dissociate or go into denial about what's happening and what we did and our involvement. And therefore, we often reenact the same problem, same pattern, because we're not acknowledging it and dealing with it, all of which leads to less ability to cope, problem solve, and enhance well-being. So when people are going through these experiences, help them understand that this is what's likely happening with them. But you have to do it in an age and culturally appropriate way. You don't have to go this sophisticated. If these kind of harmful coping mechanisms continue, we often get personal breakdown, physical health problems, and psycho-emotional problems, spiritual problems, loss of spirit, hopelessness, cognitive problems, behavioral problems, aggression and withdrawal, or all of which again leads to less ability to cope, to problem solve, and to enhance well-being. And if many people are experiencing these kinds of symptoms, you get societal breakdown, trauma-informed organizations and societies with high levels of distrust, despair, and meaninglessness, low empathy and compassion, more authoritarianism and extremism, we versus them, polarization, accelerated racism and other systemic oppressions, violence, etc. Again, all of which reduces our capacity to cope, problem solve, and enhance well-being. And if that's happening, you get more stressors on everybody, and you get this vicious cycle going. And that's what we're seeing so many places around the US and internationally now today. So helping people understand this in an age and culturally appropriate way is really going to be helpful, especially the first part, so they understand that. So transformation resilience that we've been talking about offers a framework for building universal literacy. This is not about ignoring your suffering, being tough, pulling yourself by the bootstraps, or bouncing back, as Ruben Cantu said a couple of weeks ago or last week. It's an act of growth based on commitment to the love of self and the community, and building healthy hope for the future. And transformation resilience is built around the knowledge that humans are pushed by psychobiological drives that I just talked about, that when we sense a threat, we naturally have these kind of drives, but we are also pulled by the desire for meaning and purpose in our lives. And this is a quote from Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist from many years ago. And this is really important. Think about your own life. Are you pushed by drives, but don't you want your life to have meaning and purpose. And so there's two focuses of what we call transformational resilience. The first is the presencing resilient skills, which it manages the push of those psychobiological drives, and it's self-regulation and co-regulation. And the knowledge that we can manage our body, minds, and emotions and behaviors in any situation and not cause harm to ourselves or others can provide us all, anybody, with tremendous confidence and peace of mind. I can deal with this. Okay, I'll be up and down, I'll be stressed, but I can deal with it. It builds a sense of self-efficacy. Purposing skills are the second one, and it's about trying to find meaning, direction, courage, and healthy hope to intensify the pull of purpose, and it's adversity-based growth. And it's the ability to use adversities as catalysts to learn, grow, and find new meaning, direction, courage, and hope. Allows us to live with dignity and find positive personal and to create positive personal and social change. So all five of these foundational areas that we are walking through one at a time to build population level mental wellness and transformational resilience should incorporate both presencing and purposing. We've mostly focused on presencing so far. In terms of the resilience pauses, we're now going to focus on purposing. And in doing that, you can, in each of these five areas, you can teach residents these or other self-administrable, age and culturally appropriate or accountable presencing skills. And we've talked about and had you practice just a few breath-based skills. There's awareness-based skills, mindfulness of breath. There's culturally based skills, music, dancing. There's cognitive skills. We practiced the control test as one example. Spiritually based skills, prayer and meditation, reading sacred text, and physical skills, exercise, being outdoors, yoga, etc. And there are others. So you have to sort of share these with people, understand the culture in which you're working, the demographics, and see what resonates with people. And there's certainly others that are not on this list at all. And then I want to ask you to sort of think about how can you develop your own and help others in your neighborhood or community develop their own presencing safety plan. We do this all the time in workshops, and people really find it helpful. So what you do is you have people on the left side, what signs are you going to watch for that indicate you're stressed or dysregulated? So physical signs. Oh, I got a rapid heartbeat. I got a headache. I've got muscle tension. Mental signs. Oh, my mind is racing. I've got anxiety, fear, etc. They just write those down. And then, what are common with me? And then on the right side, you say, okay, when I see those signs, what am I going to do about it? So you can practice tracking or grounding or controlled breathing or other kinds of skills, presencing skills that we've talked about, and they write those down too. And then you have people put this on their mirror in their bathroom, put it in their wallet, carry it around, put it on your desk if it's an adult, if they're working somewhere. And it helps people just have something to, oh, there it is. I got a headache again. Okay, I'm going to go and do whatever. We find it to be very, very helpful and just something we wanted to share. But you also want to focus on those purposing skills. So here's a way to think about purposing. We all have a certain level of functioning. We go up and down within it. It's just the way life is. And then an adverse event happens and we get pushed out of our normal level, our resilience zone, and we're into a state of dysregulation of some kind. It's a way of life. It just happens to all of us. And some people sort of eventually over time, we bounce back. It might be an hour, it might be a day, it might be longer than that. But some people actually use that adverse event to actually increase their sense of well-being. And it really transforms distressing experiences and emotions into something that's substantially better and healthier. But it requires a choice. I'm going to continue to suffer. I'm going to choose to use this experience to learn about the world, learn about myself, and hold the pain I have and manage it, and then rise above it. So it's not about ignoring it. It's about holding it and rising above it to live with new meaning, purpose, courage, and hope. And it's often attained by helping others in some ways or getting engaged with nature. And we'll talk more about it. So let's do our first resilience pause. And if it resonates with you, you can start by doing a using the skylight method or some other method, just to sort of notice what's happening in your body, minds, and emotions now. Are you tense? Are you feeling good? Whatever. And then let's practice a purposing skill to clarify what is most important to you. So imagine that you visit your doctor and you learn surprisingly that you only have 2 years left to live. You won't feel sick. You won't have any notice of the moment of your death either. What would you do with the time you now have left? Would you change your life in any way? And if so, how would you do that? What would you do? So suddenly the time's up, 2 years left. You won't feel sick. You won't notice what's going to happen, but boom, at the end of 2 years, you're passing. What would you do in this time you have left? Think about that. And what would you change in any way, if anything? And the reality is we can never know how much time we have left. We can walk out in front of a car by accident, next week or whatever. So how can you focus now on what is meaningful to you right now, and give your life really vital purpose? That's really what this is about. What is most important to you right now? And this is one way to think about it. We'll come back and do a lot more purposing skills. So let's, with that information background, let's do a 10-minute breakout. And Christian will post these questions in chat, but let's just have a discussion. How do you feel right now in one word? Did you practice any presencing skills last week and teach them to somebody else? And if so, how did it go? What stood out to you about Robin and Tamara's presentations last week about a just transition? And did you share that information with anybody in your neighborhood or community? And what happened? How do you think you can begin to help others begin to think about how to make a just transition? So Jesse, it's all yours. We'll see you back in 10 minutes.
Thanks, Bob. Just as a heads up before I open up the breakout rooms, we changed one setting that you may have noticed where when you enter the room, you now come in muted as opposed to unmuted. Just beware of that as you go into the breakout rooms. We are not sure if that's going to put you on mute when you enter the breakout room. So just beware of that as you go in, so that way you're able to converse. But we look forward to seeing you all in a bit. I'm opening up the breakout rooms now.
Welcome back, everyone. I hope you had good discussions. If anything stood out, any questions, any key points, any issues you want to learn more about, please post that in chat. We'll try to get to that in the Q&A later. So right now, I just want to dive back in and just say what we've been following, as you know, throughout the community practice is sort of how to organize and operate a resilience coordinating network. And today we're focusing on developing universal literacy about mental wellness and resilience. And then we'll go on the next 2 weeks and focus on the last two foundational areas, and then focus on the last two sessions. We'll focus on how do we grow and learn and do all that. And I just want to remind everybody again that developing universal literacy should be a standalone focus, helping everyone understand how trauma and toxic stress affects them, et cetera. But it should be integrated into all the other foundational areas we've been talking about. Just a little background about universal literacy. It follows from health literacy. That's why we call it literacy, which is, quote unquote, the degree to which people have the capacity to process and understand basic health information needed to make appropriate health decisions. And there are many health literacy campaigns that happen around the world. They're now common, but they often shortchange mental health, which shows that even mental health providers don't really understand that there's no physical health without mental health. And research shows consistently that understanding of mental health and resiliency is very low in the US and through most countries in the EU as well. But when building literacy, it's really important to understand both the impacts and the outcomes of toxic stresses and traumas on historically marginalized and underserved populations. In many ways, BIPOC, Black, Indigenous people of color, and other underserved residents are more amazingly resilient than anyone due to the many stresses and traumas they've experienced through their lives and what their ancestors have dealt with. But being asked to be resilient can be off-putting because it focuses on, unless it focuses on the strengths BIPOCs and other underserved communities have used in the past and the strengths they have now that help them surmount many challenges and maintain wellness and increase well-being. So in addition to addressing the upstream social determinants of health and well-being, mental wellness and resilience literacy really should involve helping people understand what's happening within them now, what's going on with them and others around them. Literacy should also help people learn how to manage the toxic stresses and traumas they experience without harming themselves or others. And it should help people learn how to overcome the stresses and traumas they experience and use them as catalysts, mostly to join with others to increase their sense of wellness and improve their conditions. So with that, I want to introduce Charlotte Eure, who's the coordinator of Virginia's Trauma-Informed Community Networks and also on the ITRC National Steering Committee. And she's going to discuss how her program addresses those issues. So Charlotte, welcome, and it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Bob. Hi, everyone. It's great to be here today. I appreciate it. I'm Charlotte Eure. I work for the nonprofit Greater Richmond SCAN, where I serve as coordinator for Virginia's Trauma-Informed Community Networks. You can go to the next slide, Jesse. Thank you. So there are 31 trauma-informed community networks, which I'll refer to as TICINs in Virginia, that cover nearly all of the state. These are multi-sector coalitions that are focused on building resilience and preventing and mitigating the impacts of trauma and adversity. And they do this through raising awareness, providing education, training, and resources, working with organizations and agencies, as well as advocating at the local and state level to change practices and policies. Each network is different and is shaped by the needs of their communities. So some of our TICINs have been around for 10 plus years and have a large membership and formal structure, lots of community and organizational engagement. And others are really new and comprised of a small number of dedicated individuals who are just beginning this work. We have TICINs that represent large cities and others in very rural areas of the state. So they're all responding to particular needs, but they're doing it through this shared model of cross-sector collaboration. Can scroll to the next slide, Jesse. The first TICIN was formed in the Greater Richmond region in 2012 when SCAN staff recognized the need for more trauma-informed approaches within different systems serving children and families that they were working with. And then SCAN began providing support and assistance to other regions interested in starting their own TICINs. So we developed guidance around building and sustaining a TICIN that you can read more about on our website. Many networks have committees or work groups that focus on particular topic areas like schools or the court system or healthcare, and then they share out to the larger network. For example, the Greater Richmond TICIN has a healthcare committee that includes representatives from local hospital systems, private practices, community health clinics, and public health organizations who discuss strategies around implementing trauma-informed practices into their settings. At SCAN, we also have a behavioral health community organizer, Tamika Daniel, who serves on our TICIN's Community Resilience Committee, and she trains the community from the perspective of her lived experience. She recently developed a Train the Trainer with a small cohort of community members with lived experience of trauma, and they're learning how to bring that information back to their communities using storytelling. So this is another way to further the reach of resilience building frameworks and strategies through a health equity lens. Next slide, please. Our TICIN coordinators and interested stakeholders participate in bi-monthly meetings where we hear about trauma-informed work from different state agencies like Virginia Department of Social Services and Department of Health, as well as different nonprofit partners. And we share about upcoming local and statewide initiatives and events. Something I'm always amazed by in Virginia is our commitment to collaboration and the ways that the model of a local community network is mirrored at the state level, with folks getting out of our regional silos and single issues to work together for collective change. So much of this work is done by passionate volunteers or is incorporated into other job responsibilities, but we have been fortunate to receive funding for initiatives through different state agencies. So Virginia Department of Health via the CDC helps to fund coordination of the TICINs as a violence prevention and health equity strategy. Virginia Department of Social Services, who we've worked closely with since the inception of the first TICIN, recently launched an Office of Trauma and Resilience Policy, and they were able to secure American Rescue Plan Act funding specifically for Virginia's trauma-informed community networks. So some of that funding is supporting an initiative to create healing-centered organizations. There are 5 TICINs that have identified either a single agency or a system in their area to conduct a needs assessment and develop recommendations, and then guide them through a strategic planning process around implementing trauma-informed and healing-centered practices and policies. And some of the funding is going to a statewide public awareness campaign, which includes 3 main parts: development of short e-learning modules on the topics of trauma and resilience that will be made free and available to anyone in the state; support for the Lift Up Virginia campaign, which you can learn more about at their website; and support for Resilience Week Virginia. The idea for Resilience Week started in the Greater Richmond TICIN in 2019 and has become an annual statewide celebration of resilience with lots of events and activities centered around how our communities and organizations are building resilience. So this includes things like film screenings, library displays, community resilience block parties, and much more. We've had a proclamation signed by the governor every year and lots of participation from our TICINs around the state. A couple of examples of this: the Loudoun County TICIN developed resilience awards to recognize mental health professionals who work with families and youth. So network members nominated colleagues, and then 8 frontline professionals were awarded with a special well-being experience facilitated by a local organization that works with horses to facilitate growth and healing and hope. The Southside TICIN, which is led by Department of Health employees in Petersburg, Virginia, partnered with a local elementary school, Petersburg Healthy Options Partnerships, and other community organizations to create a story walk through the school's learning garden for families to get outside and be active while engaging with literacy. Next slide, please. I'll just quickly share some additional highlights. TICIN members have led efforts for new language in the Virginia State Board of Education regulations to require trauma-informed courses for university-level K-12 teaching programs. They've coordinated multiple summits throughout the state. Coordinators participated in former First Lady Pamela Northam's Road to Resilience tour in 2021, so they were able to share their stories and highlight their region's strengths and needs in a series of community conversations that helped to also inform the incoming administration. They have advocated for racism to be declared a public health crisis and continue to prioritize equity, inclusion, and justice in their work. So there's so much that our TICINs are doing to try and respond to historical, systemic, and individual trauma. And at the same time, we are really working toward prevention through shifting cultural and social norms and building new systems that support and connect community members. So providing space and resources for building relationships that will better prepare and sustain us through future crises and adversity. Next slide, please. So thank you all so much for letting me share with you today. Please feel free to reach out to me at any time with any questions. Thank you, Bob. Thanks, Jesse, for sharing the slides.
Thank you, Charlotte. That was very helpful, very wonderful. We're going to have a chance to ask questions after we hear from Wanda. And I now want to introduce Dr. Wanda Boone, who's the CEO of TRI, Together for Resilient Youth. Wanda, thank you for being here today, and it's all yours.
Okay. Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here with you and to present a little bit about what Together for Resilient Youth does. So Together for Resilient Youth, and some may be confused with the title because Together for and around resilient youth is the point. Founded in 2003, we serve communities on a local, national, and international level, and we use the public health model to do so. So the foundation of TRI Coalition: if you want to experience communities authentically, question history, embrace the unfamiliar, and challenge explanations of reality, because our reality cannot be projected onto someone else's quote unquote reality. So we need to investigate that a little more. And of course, you who are in this space obviously know some of these things. And so in every community that we provide technical assistance to or we're involved in, one of the things we always do is to look for where there are pockets of disparities, as you see on the right, and then we address the social determinants of health. One of the things that I meant to do, I was moving so quickly, is that TRI is a coalition, and a part of our coalition, we have many different stakeholders. LIFT is our coalition of young people for children ages 9 to 17. And then we have College TRI 18 to 24, the Good Neighbor Business Network, 650 businesses that have signed on with us to be promoters of prevention. Faith community, law enforcement, community, health, schools, parents, and sadly, parents that have lost children or loved ones due to overdose. And we do all this, first of all, through trust. Building trust is number one. And then the collective impact model, where we have a common agenda for whatever it is we are addressing, shared measurement, mutually reinforcing activities, and continuous communication. And so this is our strategic plan and roadmap. So when I think about trauma-informed care, trauma-informed workplace, trauma-informed institutions, I said, wait a minute, this seems like something that we need to do in order to create a healthy and resilient community for all children and families. It includes everyone. So you're familiar with some of these terms, right? Safety, trust, empowerment, collaboration, support, history, and culture. Well, those translate into what we're doing in the community, and their broad strategies, and their population results, and the impact is leading us to health and resilient communities for all families and children. Let's see. Okay. So in terms of youth, closing quickly, we understand that youth need external support and internal support. And so we look at that in terms of how we address the needs of the community. Our information is co-created by community members that are a part of the team. So we share power. And it's not that we have separate meetings for youth members. Sometimes we do, of course. But when it comes to our larger meetings and the decisions that need to be made, we include everyone. And so this is how we do it. We have programs that address the needs of the community, but in terms of how we translate trauma-informed care and getting down to the place where individuals who are living in vulnerable communities, well, what about them? In terms of public housing residents especially. So our Health Ambassador Leadership Program, and they're led to Community Health Worker Certification, includes topics that we talk about, that they learn about, and then they train others. So adverse experiences in self-care, when I talk about adverse experiences, I mean the 4 levels of adverse experiences. So not only adverse childhood experiences, but also adverse climate experiences, adverse community experiences, adverse childhood experiences, and atrocious cultural experiences. So that individuals understand, well, why do they feel this way about me? What's going on here? And then opioids, overdose, and Narcan use, substance use, and violence, the power of Ubuntu, which simply means working together. and how we all impact each other, family, youth, and community, and a little bit more as well. So those are my slides, and let me go back to Ubuntu. So I don't have the time to talk about what Ubuntu means, but it does mean coming together and working together as one. You can learn more about what we have to offer through emailing me or going to our website, tryforresilient.org. And with that, Bob, I will turn it back over to you.
Okay, well, thank you very much. That's very helpful. Let's do some question and answer here. So if you have questions that you have for Charlotte or Wanda, please post them in chat, and Christian will read them, and then we can just hear from both. So while we're waiting for questions to come in on chat, and Christian will get them, I want to start with a question for both of you. How did your programs start? What spurred your effort to get going?
So for me, I worked in corporate America for 20 years and never felt like that was my place, even though I was very successful. And then I started thinking about my own childhood and adverse childhood experiences. And then we had foster children and therapeutic foster children at that. And I said, this is my place. And I learned from them what they needed in order to be successful. And I said, okay, well, this is where I need to land for the rest of my life. And so we founded Together for Resilient Youth, from being parents, now grandparents, and still doing the work informed by young people who keep our program fresh.
Great, thank you. Charlotte, how did the first local TICN get going, and how did it grow?
Yeah, so the first one started in Richmond, and it was staff at Greater Richmond SCAN, which has a child advocacy center. So they're working with law enforcement and the court system a lot, and they were seeing a lot of behaviors from staff in those systems that were re-traumatizing the children and families that they were working with. And so there was a lot of conversations that started with SCAN and with some of their partners about what can we do to address this issue, how can we help. And so that was kind of the start of the network, was pulling in staff from those systems into these conversations and helping to start educate them around trauma-informed practices and policies, and trying to make changes in that way. And because we're in the capital of Virginia, we work with a lot of statewide organizations. And so word started getting out about the network here. And there were people, of course, interested in doing something similar in their regions. And so we started having these statewide meetings and starting to share, how this is happening, what types of methods we're using, and strategizing together. And it just kept growing.
Great, thank you. So I'm going to give a summary of what I think I just heard, and I might be wrong, apologize for it, but both of you started off with a commitment to do things you felt was really important, but you didn't know what was going to happen, and they just grew and sort of took off. Would that be accurate? And the reason I'm saying that is because that's what we're trying to get folks who are involved with the community practice to do. Is you just never know, but start doing it, and see how things grow, and you just never know. So, Christian, are there questions on chat that you want to pose?
Yes, thank you, folks. This question is for Dr. Boone, but if anyone would like to jump in, please feel free. How do you choose the youth who are included in your decision-making process, and what does their involvement look like? Is there a commitment on their part? Are parents informed, etc.?
Mm-hmm. So yes, when a child joins the Youth Coalition, which is living in future tense, the parent is also involved, because what we found is children learn, parents don't know what the children learn, and they are the ones that inform their parents and community members about the information that we provide. So we use CDC information, they make it their own. by using music or spoken word, whatever they choose, and then they present that to the community as well as to their parents first, so that the parent can understand exactly what's going on, because parents don't know. And this is peer-to-peer because young people from 9 to, well, not 9 is still a safe space, but I would say teenagers 13 to 17 do not want to hear what their parents have to say. And so we cause parents and youth to have to come together, because one of the requirements is to inform their parent about what they're talking about. We don't select children based on academic achievements. We base it on their desire to know more and to learn in the community. And some people may think that means a child that's involved in sports or other academic achievement type things, but it's just not the case. And what we find is, because of trust, we find that young people rise to the level of what we expect of them. So.
Thank you. Another question, Christian?
Thank you. Just a follow up to that, how many hours or modules are included in the community health worker training? Do they need to have a public health background?
That is so important. I appreciate the question. So these are mainly individuals that live in public housing. And so they don't have the things that we have in order to be successful. And so there are 10 modules. They're offered over Zoom, and then we have some meetings in person that are social. And so they learn, they have quizzes, they share the information with other people that they're comfortable with, and then they're able to get a certificate. Now, the certificate is based on, I think I'm taking too much time, but the certificate
You're
is
doing fine.
Okay, good. The certificate is based on the Community Health Worker Certification course. So that when they opt to take that course with assistance from TRI, meaning that we pay for their certification if they want to go that far, then their achievement is strengthened by the information that they've already received. So no, they need to have a high school diploma or a GED, which actually is the requirement for community health workers when COVID started. And so, because the need was, we need to, get more people to communicate with people in the community, then there wasn't, a public health requirement and that kind of thing. But we assist them in that way.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I'm gonna ask a quick question, then Christian, you might have some other there, but for both of you, actually, Charlotte and Wanda, let me start with you, Wanda. You said that you deal with the 4 ACEs: adverse childhood experiences, adverse community experiences, adverse climate experiences, and atrocious cultural experience. What does dealing with adverse climate experiences mean? And does resilience mean something different for climate experiences than others, adverse experiences?
Yeah, it really doesn't. And adverse climate experiences refers to floods, tornadoes, fires. COVID-19 is a adverse climate experience because it impacts the masses, but it impacts Black and Brown communities differently. So the extent to which Black and Brown people experience climate are different in most or some cases because of where houses are built or who can afford what kind of housing. And so that resilience just ties into adverse climate experiences, adverse community experiences, atrocious cultural experiences in terms of what people have to deal with when they come to realize their own resilience. And so that's what that is about.
Thank you. Charlotte, do you have any, do many of the local coalitions deal with climate change in some way?
Well, certainly, to echo Dr. Boone, the pandemic is one that we have all now collectively experienced, and it's one we talk a lot about. And we have some networks that are in more rural areas that have struggled a lot with, especially getting resources and that support. And so that's something I think, keeping in mind how equity is always a part of all of these things. We talk about the four realms of ACEs a lot because it's really such a helpful way of thinking about how everything is connected.
Great, thank you. Christian, other questions?
Yes, this one is for the entire guest speaker panel. This person's curious how the work of coalitions in Virginia and engaging businesses and supporting TRI is received by groups of people who tend to promote business interests and believe that you just have to work hard to be successful.
Yeah, I'm happy to share. In Virginia, businesses can be a challenging group to try and reach with this information. But there is a lot of research that shows that, employees are more productive and happier and want to stay and work with you if you are working in a trauma-informed way. If you have this information and you are wanting to help build resilience, that it's good for the bottom line if you need to see it in that sort of lens.
So our business connection has nothing to do with funding. It doesn't have anything to do with receiving funds from the businesses that are a part of what we call our Good Neighbor Business Network. We say to businesses, specifically alcohol outlets, because the research shows that the more alcohol outlets you have in a certain area, the more violent crime or crime there is. And so we took that and we said, join us in this process, be coalition members, because what we expect from them is our message. Our message to businesses includes, we believe that you care as much about the community as we do. Okay, now, that's what we say. And so they agreed to be partners with us in prevention, because especially in underserved communities, there are, and this is the adverse community experiences, you don't have sit-down restaurants, you don't have banks, you don't have those things that lead to health and wellness. And so we put that information in convenience stores and gas stations in order for individuals to be informed at that level, at the community grassroots level. And we do some other things with the businesses, and 650 businesses in Durham have joined on, especially the largest convenience store in North Carolina has said that they will partner with us. We partner with law enforcement. There's all kinds of things about that, but that's the place that the businesses have a seat at the table with us.
Thank you. We have time for one more question, Christian, if there is one.
Yeah. We should work internet to landscape.
Yes, alrighty. So it seems like there's a lot of focus on mental health in connection with gun violence and other specific community issues. How do we convince community members of the urgency of overall developing mental wellness overall?
So what we have found is that there is an interest in finding solutions to gun violence where it happens the most. I mentioned trust, and individuals who live in underserved communities don't trust institutions. We make sure, or attempt to make sure, that they are empowered to speak to institutions. For example, they do presentations alongside institutions and researchers. If they want to work with TRI, institutions have to go for that and exercise some humility. And we are actually having a Zoom tonight about gun violence, where the community is presenting how they are responding based on the 7 strategies for community change. Who is at the forefront? Who's doing the talking? Who is the one that's promoting this? Doesn't mean institutions can't, but they just cannot be in the forefront running the whole show. The community has to be the ones to do that.
Thank you. Charlotte, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I would just agree with that so much. The Community Resilience Committee that I mentioned before is really focused on gun violence in Richmond. And our behavioral health community organizer is someone that is a really active member of that committee and is someone that is from those communities that are impacted directly. So it's really important that we're inviting all voices in, that it's not just organizational professionals that are prescribing solutions, but that we're inviting community members to the table and listening to what they need and what their ideas are.
Well, thank you both very much. Those are great answers and great information. And Wanda, if you can share your slides with us, we'll post them on the Climate Forum website so people can be able to get in touch with you. And again, we encourage everybody to get in touch with both of you. We don't want to overwhelm you both, but you're both doing fabulous work. And thank you for taking the time to be here today and make this presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So let's take a very brief resilience pause just for a second to sort of let what we just heard sort of sink into our heads and our minds and see what's going on. Again, you can use the skylight method just to sort of take a moment to do that if it resonates with you, or just sort of think about what you've experienced, what you learned, what you heard. Couple of deep breaths, maybe, if you'd like. And then let's just sort of, so you understand what we're talking about, just another resilience skill. We'll just do this very quickly, then we're going to go into a breakout room and you can talk about what you just heard. Identify a recent unpleasant experience you had of any kind. It could be with somebody else, something you did in your work, your recreation, family life, whatever it might be, something just unpleasant. And then think about looking back, did you try to learn something from the experience and identify maybe new insights or pathways? And if so, what emerged? Or did you just ignore it or deny it or get angry at whatever else, if there was somebody else involved or whatever, and go on without trying to learn from it? Just try to consider that. And if you did not try to learn from the experience you had, the unpleasant experiences, is there any way you can identify new pathways or new insights now? So for example, looking back on that experience, is there any kind of new strength or personal quality that you're now aware of that you didn't know you had, or you didn't tap into much? Did you find out more about who your true friends are and who isn't a true friend? Or did it lead to, now that you think about it, oh yeah, it actually let me help, I became aware of something else I wanted to do or something I didn't want to do that I was doing. Anything you can identify, new insights, new pathways for you, rather than just moving beyond that experiences and denying it or being angry about it. Is there any way there's something you could learn and take a new insight or pathway from that unpleasant experience? And this is something you can practice anytime, and certainly when you have another unpleasant experience. So let's do some breakout rooms. Excuse me. Share what you just heard from Wanda and Charlotte and what you learned. Discuss if there's a way you can help the people you're talking with about organizing resilience coordinating network, build literacy about mental wellness and resilience, identify any key issues, concerns, other questions that we didn't get a chance to address. then, and we'll come back in 10 minutes and then have time just to talk about all those issues. So I'm going to turn it back to Jesse, and we'll see you in 10 minutes.
All right. Just as a heads up, we were reducing the size of the breakout rooms a bit from the last time. Apologies if they were too big. We're trying to find that healthy balance between enough folks that if someone's on mute or needs to step away. So continue to let us know what size breakout room works best. We're finagling, but with that, opening the rooms now. Looking forward to seeing you all in about 10 minutes.
Well, welcome back, everyone. I hope you had some good discussions and some questions. If you have questions or issues, key points that emerge, please post them in chat. Somebody just take the liberty to do that, and we'll try to get to as many as we can. I want to just pose a question to all of you now, though. You've now heard from people involved with two different statewide programs, the North Carolina Healthy and Resilient Community Program that Mebane Boyd talked about in the second week or third week, I can't remember. And now Charlotte, Eure's program, the Tickens program, and the program Wanda be involved with. So they exist. A number of states have these local resilience networks going on across the state. How can you engage with those or start something similar in where you live? Is there a way to do that? Jesse had a separate question, sort of a follow-up question to that. So you've learned about two different programs. There's actually a few more, but if you have a statewide task force that's focused on building trauma-informed communities or trauma-informed organizations, can you connect with that in some way? How can you do that? Or have you done that? And how can you help them begin to organize these kind of statewide networks? And Jesse, clarify if I'm misinterpreting your question, but
Very well done, Bob. No,
okay.
perfect.
So if anybody has reactions to that question, how can you think about what can you do to try to get something similar going? Post that in chat, and then Christian will start reading some of that. And Christian, let me know when you have any questions that pop up or answers to that question. So again, can you imagine organizing a statewide coalition or being part of it? Who else can you get involved with? Who else can you contact about trying to form a statewide coalition? How do we get these things going? Any comments there, Christian?
Looks like folks are still typing.
Okay.
Oh, so somebody notes that they're looking forward to getting a community health worker certification to get things started.
Great. Great. Anything else?
Somebody noting that California is such a big state, they would rather start on a local level, and agreed as a Californian myself. We have a suggestion for crowdsourcing a list of suggestions. It could be a Google Doc activity. Love the idea of a Google Doc. And we also have the CTIP forum available for any folks who would like to coordinate based on their regions or week by week.
Yeah, let me pose that to everybody. Just interrupt here for a second. If you would, if you answer that question or think about that question afterwards, post your responses on the CTIP Climate Forum website so other people can see, oh, I think in my state or in my region, we can do X, Y, and Z, or we should just start off at the community level or whatever it might be. Let's just start getting that conversation going, those kind of ideas out there. And see if it spurs interest in somebody else that might come up with some. So if you can take the time to do that, we would appreciate that. Any other things that pop up?
Bob, as folks are continuing to put thoughts and questions in the chat, two things. One, just so folks know, as you put information into the forum, we won't share it publicly, but it does help us understand sort of as a national organization and as a set of national organizations what emerging practices are taking place on the ground. It's very helpful. And so really excited for this thought partnership in the forum and appreciative of everybody that posts the homeworks and connects there. And on the California side, just responding to Susan's comment with a thought is California has, I want to say it's 47 regional ACE networks that developed out of the Surgeon General's work. Which as we think about, again, starting at the local level, like this work needs to be done at the local level. But thinking about Dr. Boone's presentation about the 4 realms of ACEs, and while California's focus is on adverse childhood experiences predominantly through the regional networks that existed out of the work of Dr. Burke Harris when she was the Surgeon General. And I see another thought just came in from Reb, so I will stop talking here in a moment, but there might be an opportunity to sort of educate them on the 4 realms of ACEs. California is obviously in different parts disproportionately impacted by climate change right now and the impacts of that. And that may be one thought of outreach to an existing statewide network that has statewide support, that you may be able to begin to shift their ways of thinking, even though it isn't directly related right now, perhaps to the work that we're doing. Christian, I turn it back over to you and Bob for chat conversation.
Yeah, let me jump in. Thank you, Jesse. Let me just say one other thing about that. That what we're seeing is the more you get these adverse climate experiences, so to speak, both the toxic stresses, the rising food prices, et cetera, and the disasters, the more it does create more toxic stresses and therefore likely to aggravate more adverse childhood experiences. So they are all connected, even though sometimes it's hard for people to make those connections. So helping people understand that it's not just, oh, well, there's child abuse and neglect here, and then there's climate change. They are very interconnected, and they will increasingly be interconnected. So anyway, Christian, any other thoughts for just a few more minutes?
Yes, we have a participant noting that one of the statewide public health program employees joined the COP and they've connected with them and will continue to meet and make other connections. So glad to see those connections bubbling up here. We have a clarifying question for Jesse. Does that mean that California has 47 locations or places focusing on ACEs?
Alexis, thank you for the question. I may have spoken a bit out of turn. First of all, the number came off the top of my head. I may be wrong about 47 exactly, but in 2021, Governor Newsom signed into law new investments for adverse childhood experiences and toxic stress research. And it looks like the awards were announced through the California Initiative to Advance Precision Medicine. And I know that that went to a number of community-led efforts to prevent, mitigate adverse childhood experiences. I think that some of it may have tied into Dr. Burke Harris's focus on the clinical side and some of the ACE screening work that I know is very popular in California that is somewhat controversial, but there was that focus following COVID in investments in California that led to community work. And I would need to do more research, honestly, to know more. I just know that that was an investment and structure that was developed.
And following up on that, just very briefly, that's why we talk about working with an existing community resilience network to help them expand their focus to think about these other issues, not just ACEs or childhood experiences. One more, and then we got to close up here, tie up. Anything else, Christian?
Excellent. So we have a person based in North Carolina, and one conversation that they've been having quite a bit is about shared responsibility and ways of engaging. What responsibility do we have to adapt our approach, language to engage with folks who are more resistant, or do we have the responsibility to challenge the norms that feed into these beliefs and biases? This participants found that it's been a balance of both, and it's led to lots of rich conversation. They've been thinking about the quote, "I will meet you where you are, but we aren't going to stay there."
That's a great comment, a great quote, and a great question. My own reaction is exactly that it requires both, that you meet people where they are and you talk about practical issues that are present in their lives. And you often are therefore able to overcome differences by doing that. And just one example, and I didn't realize how late it was, so we do have to close up. I was talking yesterday, there's a program, a climate disaster program at the University of Victoria in Canada, that is mostly journalists who are now going out and interviewing people to see what their experiences were like in climate disasters, wildfires, heat smoke, et cetera, et cetera. And what they're finding is that even though they said we went to some of the most conservative parts of Canada that have experienced wildfires and heat events and smoke events, and as soon as you ask them about their experience, and they just to tell them about that, what it was like for them, they start talking about the impacts of climate change. But if you started off by them coming in and talking about climate change, and this is what we want to know, they get very defensive and they fall back into these political and ideological perspectives. So they found it incredibly interesting that the politics just disappeared once you started asking people about their own experiences. So think about that. They'll get to that. Okay, we're going to have to go on here. I just want to get a little more detailed aspect about what universal literacy about mental wellness and resilience means. We've talked about, and this is at the pyramid on a broader scale, and so more people, everybody at the bottom, and less people at the top. But you really want to help people understand how trauma and toxic stresses affect the body, mind, and emotions. And then you want to help people learn those simple self-administrable presencing and purposing skills. But you also then want to help people learn how to assist others that experience mental health issues. The more you can do that, the better. And also how to obtain additional information and resources when they do experience mental health problems. And help some people learn how to get knowledge about how to seek treatment for personal mental health problems if it's really, really serious and it's not something that can be addressed within a community context. And I want to say one other thing about purposing, and then we'll sort of close up for the day. There's a few, we'll focus in on purposing again the next couple of weeks, but there's a few key principles of purposing. One is to be continually curious about things. Try to learn and grow by continually asking for more information. Explain this further to me. Work hard to clarify what is in your control and what is not in your control. And try to live with empathy. Keep asking what happened to you and what happened to others, rather than what's wrong with you and what's wrong with others. Clarify, try to continually live in accordance with the core values you want to live by in the midst of adversities. And help others or help nature, the environment, as a way to help yourself. It activates the oxytocin virtual cycle. We'll talk about that next week, I think. And then continue to try to create a vision of what is meaningful, important to you, and identify a pathway forward. That's what that first little exercise we did. You had 2 years left to live. What would you want to do? Keep that in mind all the time. And if you can sort of follow these and other principles we'll dive more into, it really can activate one or more of these beneficial outcomes. These are the outcomes of adversity-based growth, of renewed appreciation of life, an awareness of some personal strengths and assets you didn't realize you had, are stronger and more meaningful relationships, spiritual growth in some way, and recognition of new opportunities and pathways of life. So that's what purposing really is about. And you can even help people develop their own purposing action plan, just like we had developed a presencing action plan where you have people, and we do this in workshops all the time, they identify what are your passions, your interests, your strengths, what values do you want to live by in the midst of adversity, how are you going to take steps to enhance your well-being, and what actions you're going to take to help the well-being of others. And you put that into an action plan. And we find this to be very powerful for some people, but you can't start off with this. So just to wrap up, if you want CE credits, to remember to complete the American Public Health Association session evaluation you will receive. Oh, real quickly, please post yes or no in the chat. It's supposed to be chat, not if you're going to attend this Thursday special session. It'll be from 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern time, which will just focus on working with youth. And again, the Mycelium Youth Network will make a short presentation. Dr. Boone will still attend. We'll have more chance to talk with her. The next session is next Tuesday, the 26th. And homework, try to practice a purposing resilience skills. One of the two we talked about once a day, and maybe try to teach it to others. And maybe think about developing your own purposing or presencing safety plan and share it with others. And just like we did before, share what you've learned today from Wanda and Charlotte with the 2 or 3 people you've been talking with, hopefully, about forming a resilience coordinating network or expanding an existing one, and talk about how you can build universal literacy about mental wellness and resilience within your community. So with that, we wish you the best during this next week, and we'll all see you next Tuesday. But please, again, if you have a moment more, let us know. We want to make sure there's enough people for the special session, not this coming Thursday, for that focus on youth. So with that, have a good week, everybody. We'll see you in a week. Take care.